Good night, I am Tomas Guevara, and this is the channel Rewriting the Reality. Today's episode is about relationships. To understand your relationships, subscribe to this channel today. Most of us engage in relationships, and regardless of what type of relationship it is, because it matters not, when we develop relationships, what most of us do is develop a foundation with that relationship. We establish our commonalities that draw us together, and we form a construction, a form of the relationship in which it almost is its own entity. We may or may not incorporate a factor of intimacy in that relationship, but the main aspect of this is that usually we place that relationship, metaphorically, in a cage, and expect it to remain the same. We change, the other individual changes, we grow, we evolve, we move in different directions, they move in different directions, they grow. Regardless of whether we see how another individual is growing, they are. They may merely be doing it in a very different capacity than us. Now, in that, all the while the relationship remains in that cage locked, because we think that the relationship must be the same. It is not allowed to change. And what happens in that is that we change, but the relationship is locked in that cage and not allowed to change. Expectations begin to build about what the relationship should be, and how it should be expressed, and how you should express it, and how the other individual should express it. And in that, generally speaking, one of several directions is almost inevitable to occur. Either both individuals change into a capacity in which they both begin to notice differences more and more. Usually, we focus on those differences rather than the similarities. We move in different directions. Or one individual notices the differences and may focus their attention on the other individual and generate expectations of what the other individual should be doing or not doing, and what they should know and not know. Or one of the individuals is noticing differences and turns the expectation on themselves, that they should be more understanding or more accepting, or they should be expressing differently, or they should be more accommodating, or they should be more compromising. But it is difficult, and they fight with themselves, for they are expressing what is important to themselves, but they are continuing to concentrate on the relationship in the cage that is not changing, because they are not allowing it to change and evolve. And the individual is attempting to maintain it in that unchanged state and therefore turns the expectations on themselves and blames themselves for not maintaining the relationship adequately or not knowing how. In this, we move to any of these scenarios in which it is very likely that the individuals will eventually part ways, so to speak, and they will move in their individual respective directions and usually will dissolve the relationship. And it can be considerably confusing and painful for one or both individuals, for generally they are left with many questions and continued expectations. In this, if you are the individual that expresses the expectations of yourself, then you express this type of question: what could I have done different that would have salvaged the relationship? If you are the individual that is focused upon the other individuals and generating expectations of them, you will be expressing, they should have done this, and then we could have continued with the relationship. If both of you are in directions of paying attention to each other and expressing the expectations of each other, you will part ways and blame each other and not necessarily question much. Or both of you will be generating the expectations of yourselves, in which scenario you would likely continue to drag through, carrying this caged relationship for considerable time frameworks and being both miserable, for you are continuously attempting to do different, or accommodate, or discover what was the right thing to do and the right thing to say at different times. We must understand that it is not about the right thing to do, or the right thing to say. It is about allowing relationships to evolve as we evolve. And recognizing that different individuals evolve at different rates and do not always evolve together. And therefore, that does not mean that the relationship was a failure. It merely means that most relationships that we incorporate in our life are temporary. They are not relationships that we engage throughout the entirety of our lifetime, for each relationship presents something for us to gain, to benefit from, to learn. Not all of them are permanent. Most of them are not. Eventually we do evolve in different capacities, and in some situations, we outgrow each other. Or we merely move in different directions of interest. What is important to each one changes. Importance is always changing, and when importance changes but the relationship is locked in that cage and not allowed to change, then there is the expectation that the importance should not change either. And they do. In this, it is not a matter of what should we have done, or what could we have done differently that would have allowed us to maintain that relationship. It is more a matter of not mourning the relationship or the loss of the relationship, but rather celebrating the aspect of the relationship that you maintained when you did and acknowledging that to yourself. Now, in relation to the subject of how you can prevent that from occurring in association to future relationships or present relationships, that is a matter of giving yourself the key, which is the awareness that you and every other individual in our world are always changing. And using that key to unlock that cage and allowing the relationship to change also. Allow it to move in whatever direction it is naturally evolving to. And it may evolve into an entirely different type of relationship than how it initially begun. It may have begun as a friendship, and it may evolve into a partnership. Or it may have begun as a partnership, and it may evolve into a friendship or a different type of partnership. It is not evolving, or less than, when it changes. It is merely different. If it began as a partnership and moves in the direction of not being a partnership and being a friendship, it has not evolved. It has changed. It has evolved with you in the direction that serves you the most efficiently and that is the most beneficial to both of you. In this, relationships are not graded as higher or lower, better or worse. Partnership is not more important than friendship. A partnership is not more intimate than a friendship. A parent and child relationship are not less important than a partnership. A grandparent and a grandchild are not less important than a partnership. Every relationship has its own merits and its own importance. Friendships, in genuine expressions of friendships that include intimacy, and I am not speaking of intimacy in relation to sexual activity, that is only one very small expression of intimacy, but friendships that include the factor of intimacy are tremendously valuable, which is also the reason that it can be considerably affecting when they dissolve. It can in some capacities be more affecting than a partnership. What I would recommend to everyone is that the only way to maintain a relationship, and communication, and interaction in a relationship with another individual, is by being present, by being aware of yourself and the other individual. Valuing yourself and the other individual in equal capacity. Not valuing yourself more than the other individual, and not valuing the other individual more than yourself, but recognizing that you hold equal value and importance. Then allowing the relationship to develop and to evolve and to change in whatever direction it naturally does. Not to cage it and not to expect it to continuously be the same, or generating the same guidelines with it, for guidelines in association with relationships change also as you change. Therefore, adhering to the same guidelines in a relationship is also caging it. In this, the more present you are, the more you will be expressing what is genuinely important and the less reactive you will be, therefore the more open you will be to sharing in the relationship. And another important factor in this subject is being aware of and defining the relationship and the capacity in which it is being expressed. Not every relationship is intimate. That does not mean it is not important. That does not mean it is not valuable. Some relationships are intimate. Some are not. But they all incorporate value, and they all have a purpose. And that is also an important factor to be aware of, because when you are not aware of that, you automatically move in the direction of generating, once again, expectations. Expectations of the relationship itself and of the other individual, and what it should be and what they should do, and what they should give, and how they should express themselves, and what that relationship should constitute in appearance. All of those should create considerable weeds in your garden of your relationships. And those weeds choke all the blooms in that garden, and you are left with the remnants of the weeds, which is regret. Therefore, to avoid all of that, it is a matter of recognizing what you are doing. Now, in relation to the subject of communication, it is important to evaluate the complement between yourself and another individual, generating commonality to establish a foundation, and sharing importance in association with each other, that your importance may not be identical, but they will be successful if they match. Matching does not always mean that they are the same. It means they fit together. Puzzle pieces are not always the same shape, but they fit together. That is what matching means, that you fit together in with what is important to each of you. Even if your importance is different, they match. In that, you will incorporate a much greater ease in communication with each other, for you have a foundation of commonality. Now, if you don't have many commonalities but you have enough matchings in importance, you can establish and develop a successful relationship, and communication is a key to that. Communication is a key to every relationship. But in that, communication may be more challenging if you are individuals that do not share tremendous commonalities. Let us say that you incorporate significant differences, but you have enough importance that are matching, that will hold you in a relationship, and that you can build a foundation on. And it does occur frequently, in which individuals may express very differently. Now that may be more challenging in communication, and once again it requires listening, not assuming, asking questions if you are not clear in your communications, and always being aware of honoring yourself and honoring the other individual. This is a key point, and this is likely one of the most difficult points to implement. How do you honor yourself and honor another individual if they are irritating you? Or more so if they hurt your feelings? If you feel discounted or if you feel unseen or unheard, how do you honor yourself and express yourself, but also honor the other individual? That is key. When another individual expresses in a manner that you perceive to discount you or to hurt you, the first piece is not to automatically assume and personalize, but to seek out more information, in other words, clarify what the other individual is expressing. Now if you seek out more information and clarify, and it continues to appear to you that the other individual is being inconsiderate or not considering your position or your feelings, or is being hurtful, the next piece is to consider what the other individual's motivation is. This brings us to a very important piece. One that is an important piece to be communicated, and that piece is the word, reflecting. We are always reflecting to ourselves. That is how our perceptions mechanism works. Therefore, the question is, what am I reflecting to myself? But we consistently display that we do not actually understand what these reflections are. We are defining them as mirrors, and they are not. In many situations, a reflection is presented to you. I would say everything that we present to ourselves is a reflection. And in almost all of them, what that reflection is expressing is the element of choice. That is what reflection does. It gives us choices. I explained this formula in the 5th and 6th episode regarding perception. I explained that in expressing our reality, what we do is project energy, then we reflect that energy to us, and then we do what? We either react to the reflection, or we choose. Reflection is the presentment of choice. Therefore, it is in many situations, if not most, the presentment to us of what are my choices in this situation. What are my choices to respond, or whether I want to respond? What are my choices in relation to what to do or not do? That is what reflecting is. It is the presentment of choice. Simple. Not a mirror. Now, in this, when you are interacting with other individuals and you are reflecting in some manner that is uncomfortable, or frustrating, or irritating, or hurtful, or confusing, it is your presentment of choice. What are your choices in relation to what is being expressed? In that, if you are allowing yourself to understand the motivation of the individual that is presenting that reflection to you, then this will give you more information about your choices and therefore about how you can communicate. In some situations, you may be attempting to communicate with another individual and they may appear to not hear what you are expressing at all. And they continue to express in the manner that they are, and it seems to you that you are worlds apart, and that you are not connecting, and you are not even engaging the same subject. Or if you are engaging the same subject, you are each approaching it from entirely different angles, and it seems that there is no possibility of connecting. What generally most of you will do is either be opposing, or once again you will retreat and give up. Neither of which is a very satisfying response or solution, and both will encourage you to continue to pay attention to what you don't want and what you don't like and the negative. In this, if you can assess even a small aspect of what may be motivating the other individual in what they are expressing, not to you, not personalizing, not about you, but from their perspective, what is the subject that they are expressing? And what is motivating them in that subject? Are they attempting to convince you? Are they defending themselves? Are they attempting to appear more knowledgeable? Are they asserting themselves? Are they being aggressive? In this, it is not a matter of analyzing the other individual. All that is required is that you access one small aspect of what the other individual is expressing and one small aspect of what their motivation for that is, removing yourself from the scenario, for that is not about you, it is a presentment of choice. Therefore, your choice is if you want to be connecting, if you are motivated to be connecting, if you want to be communicating with the other individual, and if it is important enough to you, then you can remember to honor yourself and honor them. And how do you honor the other individual? By acknowledging what their motivation is for what they are expressing. Or, simply acknowledging what they are expressing. Whether you agree with it or not, in acknowledgement of what they are expressing, what you are doing is you are stopping the conflict because you are communicating that you heard them. And once they have been heard, they are much more likely to listen and to hear you also. But this is also a matter of evaluating what the importance is to you. Are you attempting to prove or convince or appear more knowledgeable, and that is the reason that you are expressing in a particular manner to the other individual, and therefore they are reacting in defense and therefore expressing in some manner to override you? Or is this a situation in which what you are doing may not necessarily match what your intention is? That you may genuinely be intending to connect, but what you are doing is not completely matching that? Or is it simply a situation in which you are presenting to yourself a different expression as a reflection, to give you that opportunity to evaluate what your choices are and how you choose to respond, or if you choose to respond? But whenever you are communicating with other individuals and there is a discrepancy, or there is a disconnection, or there is difficulty or opposition, and you want that to change, or you want that to not continue, the most important factor to remember is to honor yourself and to honor the other individual. When you honor the other individual, whether you agree with them or not, and you may very much, vehemently, disagree with them, it is irrelevant. When you honor them, the opposition is broken. That energy is cut. The next time you ask yourselves in frustration and confusion, What am I reflecting to myself? Answer yourself with this: a presentment of choice. Please remember that you always have choices. Also, understand that there is a tremendous power in energy presently in opposition to connecting and communication. There is a tremendous divide, and we all are being influenced by it in different capacities, and therefore there are difficulties in communication and connecting with individuals, in part because we don't understand yet our orientation. That is why it is crucial to watch the episode number 10 about orientation. Also keep in mind that you have the power to change that, and every one of us can generate more power to neutralize all of that energy that is opposing. We have the power to do that, and the power is the acceptance of our beliefs. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share all this information with friends and family.